Hello, everybody. My name is Ajay Mudito. I was asked to give a talk about a little bit of a perspective from a meditator's point of view about suffering, compassion, and an inner peace. We all have certain kinds of needs and desires in life. We have hopes and wishes. We all hope things will turn out fine. But there's a certain kinds of pain in life. Pain of life, which we cannot avoid. The suffering follows us from the time we are born until we pass away. We all know babies, when they get born, babies cry. That's what we know they're alive, when they give the first scream, when they come out of the mummy's belly. That's where they have healthy lungs, if they can give a bit of a cry. Then we start going through the aging process slowly. Ever since you're a baby, you start aging. There's no avoiding it. We go through the years of childhood. There's a certain kind of freedom when you're a child. The world is open. The world seems to be full of opportunities. And then we start getting a bit older, perhaps into the years of teens, young adults. We go through the school, learn how to be with others, learn how to live in a society. And slowly it starts to dawn on us. We reflect the pain of life. It comes even on those early years. We start losing our loved ones. It's the same for me. I remember losing my great-grandfather, great-grandmother, seeing the whole family grieve, for they ultimately, when they have to leave, there's a certain kind of clue what elderly people have for the family. I think that's a really good thing to remember. That even if you're aging and you see all the limitations what the life has brought to you, how valuable it is for you to hold the families or even communities together. And that was the thing which it showed me when my great-grandmother and great-grandfather passed away. The whole family felt that there was a certain kind of period coming to an end. But then I was lucky enough, my grandmother was really, she was really energetic, kind-hearted person. I spent a lot of time with my grandmother. And I have a lot of good feelings, good memories. I spent a lot of time, all the summer holidays, and even when I was adult, I spent a lot of time with her. She became the one who brought the family together. She was the focal point. She was the place where everybody went for Christmas. In Finland, we have a big thing called Midsummer Festival. Everybody went to her place for the Midsummer Festival. She was always the one that held the family together. And eventually, she also had to go. And unfortunately, we are in this point of history in societies where it's hard the families to be together. Now all our family has spread in the different parts of the world. And we don't have any more of that focal point. So what to do with this at this time and age? We need other ways of bringing people together. We still have that same compassion. Humans are humans. We need other humans. There's no self-made men or women. We are brought up by the society, school, values, what we get from the families. That what makes us. Sometimes I feel like it's like gears. You all know how gears work, where there's a big gear and a smaller gear, and they move each other. It's like a Swiss watch. You know how there's like watches have complications, and the more complications they have, the more expensive the watch is. And so you have all these little things which are moving the others, all the gears. So this small gear moves this maybe medium-sized gear, and that moves the bigger gear, and that moves this mechanism, and that moves the dials on your watch. The same way for us, we have these kind of things which move us, give us impetus to do something, to give us meaning in life. But we need to perhaps add those things into our lives. One of those things is good friends, dear friends, friends which we can value and appreciate, and the vice versa, we need to be a good friend to somebody else. That becomes like the gear which is moving the bigger gear, which is moving that gear. Because we know we are pushed along with certain kind of forces which we are not really aware of why they're pushing us in a certain direction. Maybe perhaps there is not really a meaning even behind there. But yet all of those gears move something else, and in turn those move the bigger gears. Perhaps we got sick because of the place we lived in, because we get so much stress from the work, from the family. Perhaps we got sick because it is just our biology. We don't control our bodies, really. The body just belongs to nature. It's not your fault that the body gets sick, ages. Human bodies, that's what you get when you have a human body. So all of those things, like the seasons, you cannot control the seasons. The seasons move along. We're coming to a spring, spring moves to summer, summer moves to autumn, then comes the winter. Everything is moving, and then come autumn, everybody starts getting flus. We get an influenza. It is just the nature. It's not your body's fault that it gets sick. The gears are moving, and the body reacts to that. There's an interesting story about Thai monk who lived in the forest. I live in the forest. We are considered forest monks. One of our teachers, he told this story that when he lived in Thailand, we have these little huts in the forest, and he lived in a tiny hut. And he said one day there was a massive storm in Thailand, and he lived because he lived in that small hut in the forest, which was just made out of bamboo and timber, just put together. They're very simple structures there in the forest. He was really afraid what's going to happen. So all night he couldn't sleep. It was this massive storm outside. The storm was raging and he didn't know what to do. So he said he just went inside and closed the door the best he could, closed the window the best he could. He just huddled there and meditated. Eventually he just got so tired that he just started to sleep, and he was just thinking, I hope I wake up tomorrow morning. So the morning came, and he went outside. The storm had passed. It was very quiet in the forest, eerily quiet. You know, when a big storm passes, even the birds they're quiet for a while. The whole nature is looking what has happened. And same for him. He quietly went outside of his hut in the forest, and he started to look at the ground, and he saw there's like trees have come down and branches everywhere, and he was relieved that he saw another morning. And the hut wasn't damaged that much, really. Then he said he realized he was looking around and he saw the ground. The storm had passed. And a big storm, when they come, they rip off leaves from the trees. And when he looked at the ground, he saw a lot of brown dead leaves which have been blown off from the trees. It's always like that. The old leaves, they tend to come off easy. So everything was littered with these old leaves. But he said when he looked a bit more carefully, he saw even leaves which weren't that old. They were still green, mature leaves that were green, but they were also, because of the violent storm, ripped off from the trees. And he said when he was standing there quietly, he even saw some small leaves, even tiny little buds of leaves. And he said he realized that's how it is in life. Sometimes when a big storm comes, maybe even not that, it's just natural part of the natural world. Usually it's always the old leaves which fall off naturally. They're the most ones that get blown off and they die, so to speak. But at the same time, there's a certain amount of green leaves that get blown off from the trees as well. And even the tiny little tender leaves, even sometimes they come off from the trees. And he said he realized that that's just how life is. Nature is just nature. And one thing practicing mindfulness has taught me over the years that, say for me, I'm not in control of my body. I can take care of the best of my abilities, take care of it with kindness. And kindness means different things. Kindness means taking this body out for a walk in nature, being in contact with others. Even physical touch is very important. If somebody is, for example, in coma, they're lying in a bed and they're in this kind of threshold where the body and mind really don't know whether they're going to survive. To keep them, if you want to keep this kind of patient in this world, one thing what keeps them in this world is contact, physical and mental contact. So you touch these patients, you talk to them about everyday things as if they were alive. And you don't need to talk to them louder than normal. They will hear you. And that voice has a very, very strong effect on mind. Speech, human speech. It's like when you hear your name being spoken in a crowded room, even if there's a lot of noise, you recognize your name. Somebody said your name. And even though you weren't paying attention, something draws you into that. Or if you're trying to be quiet, one thing which is really detrimental, which really keeps it's difficult to meditate, for example, is human speech, because we always trying to interpret human voice, human speech. So that's one thing which is, we can use it, it has a tremendous effect on you. And that's why we think about the idea of coming back, that we need others. If we start isolating ourselves and you just spend a lot of time by yourself and you isolate yourself from the world, you start becoming you start separating from the world, so to speak. And you get too entangled with your own mind. So that is another reason why we need this kind of communities. And we need that touch, the physical and mental touch. There's a pain in life, there's suffering. But there is also compassion, care. And that comes from doing something actively. We don't learn to become compassionate person just by staying by ourselves. Active compassion comes from doing it. It's learned. It's the same thing I think like building a muscle. You cannot just go to a gym or walk or whatever exercise you like to do once and you think that's enough. No, you need to have the constant rhythm. Even though it's like, I don't feel like going for a walk today, but I know I should. I feel good afterwards. And it makes me feel better even later on. The same way compassion is active doing. You build the muscle of your heart, of your mind. When you're actively doing kindness, you learn to think about it more often as well. In Buddhism, we call it contemplation. And contemplation is this active doing that act of kindness over and over again. You do something kind, and it naturally softens your mind. But then you do it again when you think over it. And also, you do it before you do the act by thinking about it. So don't underestimate kindness and compassion. It's a key thing to have a happy life. And it's actively doing it, and it's actively thinking about it. Never think that you are somehow over inflating your ego if you think you're so good. Think that you are good. Think that you are a generous person. Think that you deserve kindness. Who has too many friends in this world? Who can say that I had enough? I had my limit. This is only so much kindness I can take. Take more kindness from others. If someone tells you, thank you, what should you say? That's nothing. It doesn't matter. It's okay. No. You should say, you're welcome. You helped someone. You know how good it feels when somebody appreciates you. Why do you underestimate that kindness? Why? Why we always thought that we should come last? I don't matter. You do matter. You can become the clue for the community, for your family, even just 1 or 2 friends. And from this kind of place where you feel comfortable, when you have a certain kind of compassion growing inside of you, there's a certain kind of warmth inside of you. Like I said, if you go to walk outside, not just the body gets the sunshine, but your mind gets the sunshine. Mind and body are always together. They're intertwined. It doesn't mean that when your body is sick, your mind has to be sick. No, that doesn't mean that. You can still be okay even though you're sick. But the inner peace really comes from those kind of happinesses. Happiness of compassion, happiness of seeing somebody else happy. My name is Mudito, Ajahn Mudito. That's what mudita means, really means happiness of seeing somebody else happy. Sometimes I imagine it's like when you see somebody else in traffic lights, like you see sometimes people, you walk past their car and you see them looking at each other and they're smiling and they're talking something, but you don't hear what they're saying inside of the car, but you can see that they're happy. It just puts a smile on your face. Or you see somebody else smiling. They're looking at the sun, even if they're just enjoying it. Just look at their face and makes you feel that sun. It's that feeling when mother sees their children happy. You always feel happy for your children to be happy. That's my name. Seeing happiness on others. And from that happiness is, like I said, happiness of giving and caring, happiness of compassion, happiness of seeing happiness on others, happiness of recognizing that you matter. Your mind becomes more calm. There's a pain of life, but there's also stillness, quietness, inner peace. Inner peace comes from those kind of happinesses. And then you feel that you are okay. What are these happinesses we are really looking for? It is just this happiness of contentment, which is one of the deepest happinesses you can have. Remember that time when, for example, you were still in school. We went through that aging process a little bit. And remember that time when you were a little kid, let's say 7 years old, 8 years old, and you're coming from the school, and it's a summer holiday. It's the last day of school, and the holiday is going to start today after the school. You have your little backpack. I still remember having those, at the backpack those days, it felt really big because you were so small. But you have your little backpack and you have your books with you, but you're walking away from school. And the summer holiday is ahead of you. Today was the last day of school. There's a long holiday in front of you because when you're small, time doesn't matter so much. When you get older, we are entrapped by the time. Time is always causing us a lot of pain. But when you're young, the summer holiday feels really long. There's nothing to do tomorrow, no more homework. Actually, there's nothing to do for a long, long time. And remember that time, or imagine that, what you would have felt like when you were walking from the school to home. You're just skipping along on the road. That is contentment. That's what contentment feels like. And you can cultivate even that contentment, even your own life, even now. Again, it doesn't come from somewhere all of a sudden. Cultivate it. It's a happiness to be cultivated. Sun is shining. Why should you just watch TV inside? Why can't you just go for a walk? Why can't I just be content, whatever I have in life? What do I need? Why do I need to dream about something? Something will be better in the future. It will change. Sure, things will change. Things never change, stay the same. But why do you live in the future? Why are you always expecting something? You know, like when you're eating, are you really eating? Or are you always thinking about the next meal? You're eating a lunch and you're thinking what I'm going to have for dinner. You're thinking I have to do cleanup after this. You're thinking I have to do this and that. You're not really happy about the meal. Something is missing. There's too much of something. Or you're distracted by your phone. Why do you do that? Why don't you just eat and be happy that you have food? Enjoy that someone made a meal for you when you go into a restaurant. Somebody put the effort in. Appreciate little things in life. I think that's another thing we forget. We have to get sick before we appreciate health. We need to be separated from somebody before we really appreciate them. Separation brings the tenderness in heart. Why do you need to wait until you are sick? Why do you need to wait until you're separated from somebody else if you appreciate them? Why is it so difficult to appreciate someone you love? Why everything becomes like a furniture? Why your family is like a furniture? Why is your phone more interesting? Wouldn't it be better just to put the phone away for a while and just observe your family? What about if you observe your own mind? Do you know what silence is in your mind? Do you really? Silence. There are those moments in your mind. Okay, I'll give you an example. You don't know what quietness of mind is really until you take a pause. The same way if I speak this way and I stop. Can you pay attention to your mind when I stop? That's the quietness of the mind. And it's the same thing. You can learn it if you appreciate it. You need to appreciate something for it to appear. For a beautiful mind to appear, you need to appreciate beautiful mind states. Value them. I'm good enough. I'm good enough. You keep repeating that and you start believing it. You start seeing the quietness in your mind, and instead of feeling it, you say, that's good. Because then there's no pain of life. The pain of life only disappears in those places, quiet places. It doesn't disappear when you're distracting yourself. It doesn't. That pain of life comes from being alive. It starts from that time you're a baby. It goes throughout those years of being young, becoming adults, middle age, old. You keep running and running. Where do you end up? You keep distracting and distracting. What did you learn? Do you know yourself? Do you? It is just those gears moving along. One gear moves another, move another, move another. They all work together. That is you. Don't take it too seriously. Life is worth enjoying. There's a pain of life. But if you don't take it personally, it's not so bad. So, appreciate yourself. You're worth it. You are worth it. Don't think that's your fault that there's a pain of life. It is just gears moving along, and that's what happens. Always remember compassion, not just for others, for yourself. Compassion for yourself is important. You matter. Take care of yourself. Take care of your body, and you are taking care of your mind. And search for others. Search for communities. And when you have good friendships, value and take care of them. So that's my talk. I hope you got out of something out of it. I hope I can see you all somewhere in the future in this beautiful world we live in. So thank you so much. This was Ajahn Mudito from Bodhinyana Monastery in Serpentine, Perth, Western Australia. Thank you so much.